Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Midnight Affairs Tales. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know what part of the world you are watching from right now. Let us know in the comments. Now let's dive into today's story, Chapter 1. I was 6,300 miles from home, sitting in a dim barracks room lit only by the flickering screen of my phone. The base in Pyeongtaek, South Korea, was quiet, too quiet. I had just finished a 12-hour shift routing encrypted signals for NATO training ops, and all I wanted was to hear my wife's voice. Taryn usually answered on the second ring. Not that night. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. Must be a signal thing, I muttered, forcing a weak laugh to myself. But I knew better. That sinking kind of silence is not random. It is personal. I dialed again. Your call cannot be completed as dialed. Then the screen flashed something that turned my blood cold. Blocked. I froze. The military trains you for everything: combat zones, insurgents, code red lockdowns. But it does not prepare you for the moment your wife blocks your number while you are deployed overseas. I sat there, jaw clenched, heart hammering behind my ribs. I called from my work phone. Still blocked. I borrowed a buddy's phone, ringing. That is when I knew. She had not died. She had not been in an accident. She had chosen silence. Deliberately. Brutally. I should have felt rage. But what hit me first was confusion. Then grief. Then cold, calculated clarity. This was not just a phone call gone wrong. This was the beginning of something else. I opened Instagram on my burner account. There she was. Taryn. Smiling in a sunlit brewery. Wearing a leather jacket I had never seen. Holding a man's hand, tattoos up his knuckles. The caption? New chapter begins today? I did not speak. Did not breathe. The room around me dissolved. War was out there. But betrayal? It had just landed right in my chest. Wait, if this story gave you chills or made you think twice about trust, don't just scroll away. Hit that like button to support the channel, and subscribe if you never want to miss another jaw-dropping tale. We drop new stories every week that'll leave you speechless. To everyone who's already subscribed, sending you heartfelt love and thanks. Join the family, because here, every story hits different. Now, let's dive back into the story. 2 weeks earlier, I had stayed up late, wrapping a hand-carved wooden jewelry box I had found in a Korean artisan market. I had written her a card in pen. No typing. No emojis. Just words from a man who missed his wife more than oxygen. Taryn turned 29 that day. Our 5th birthday apart since I enlisted. I had it all planned. The package would arrive with flowers. She loved sunflowers. Inside the box, a small necklace with coordinates etched on a silver charm, the exact spot where I proposed to her at Lake Powell. That package was never acknowledged. Not a thank you. Not a text. Not a damn word. At first, I rationalized. Maybe it got delayed. Maybe she was busy. But then the story started showing up on social media. Her holding cocktails with girlfriends I did not recognize. A selfie at a new yoga studio. No ring. No mention of me. On the night of her birthday, I sat on the edge of my bunk with the unopened care package I had prepped for her in return. I could not send it. Something had shifted. I felt it in my bones. She had blocked me. And she had not even waited until the paper from the package was torn. The Taryn I married was careful with emotions. She cried watching documentaries. She sang old Fleetwood Mac songs while folding laundry. She kissed me like the world might end. But this version? The one who went ghost on the man stationed overseas? This version was someone else. That night, I did not sleep. Instead, I started writing a letter. Not to her. To myself. I titled it, Timeline of Lies. 6 years ago, Taryn had been different. I met her at a gas station just outside Sedona, her Jeep broken down and her hands covered in grease. She was the kind of woman who laughed too loud and wore combat boots with floral dresses. I offered to help, and she accepted like we had known each other in another life. We were married within a year. She loved wildflowers, hated loud chewing, and once punched a man for mocking a disabled vet. She had fire, but she had heart. When I deployed, she cried at the airport like someone was cutting her soul in half. She wrote me letters those first few months. Long ones. Pages soaked in perfume and emotion. But by year 3, things changed. Her calls got shorter, her updates vaguer. She blamed stress, claimed her yoga studio was overwhelming her. I believed her. I had no reason not to. But hindsight is cruel. The signs were there. Excuses for not visiting my family, vague answers about her schedule, sudden changes in hairstyle or routine. She stopped asking about my missions. Stopped saying, "I love you," before hanging up. She became more of a memory than a partner. And now, I was beginning to realize that the woman I had built my life around may have never fully existed. She was a mirage. The real Taryn? She was smiling in someone else's arms while I risked my life under foreign skies. And that realization, it did not break me. It built something in me. Something harder. Something colder. Something ready. I folded my letter. Set it next to the unopened gift box. And I whispered into the silence, "You have no idea what you just started." His name was Cade Mercer. No relation. No irony. Just insult. I found him tagged in one of Taryn's Instagram stories. At first glance, he looked like a walking cliché, tight fade haircut, flannel shirt tied around his waist, ink sleeves from knuckle to neck. But the moment I clicked his profile, my stomach twisted. His bio, owner at Red Needle Ink, father of none, lover of one, pin post. Him and Taryn, sitting close, drinking cider, her head on his shoulder. The caption, "To the one who healed what I thought was beyond repair." Healed? She was talking about herself like the widow of a man she had already buried. The most damning photo? A black and white still of him tattooing her ribs. Her shirt lifted, her face in focus, eyes closed, smiling. The ink? A compass. And I knew exactly what that symbol meant. It was what I gave her in necklace form on our 3rd anniversary. She had taken my symbol and let another man stab it into her skin with a needle. That was not love. That was mockery in ink. I clicked deeper. Cade was local. Owned a tattoo shop 20 minutes from our house in Flagstaff. Reviews praised his skill, his charm, his healing energy. He had no idea she was married. That much was clear. I scrolled through his older posts. He had no presence of her before this year. Taryn had scrubbed her past. There was no mention of me. No photos. Not even our wedding day. She had erased me digitally, as if I had died. And now she was living this shiny, curated fantasy with a man who had not bled or served or stood with her through anything real. And still, I said nothing. Because the quiet man with receipts is the most dangerous kind. I saved every image, every tag, every comment. And I opened a folder on my encrypted drive, Taryn_case. The war she thought was over had not even begun. There were 10 voicemails saved under her name. Most people delete them. I never did. Not hers. The first one played automatically when I plugged in my headphones. It was dated 5 months back. "Hey babe, just wanted to say I miss you. Like, really miss you. I lit your candle today, the cedarwood one. It smells like you. Come home soon, okay?" I closed my eyes. Next. "Cole, I know we said we would not talk about it, but I had a breakdown in class today. I could not stop crying when I played that song you like. Please tell me you are safe. Please." Then the shift came. By the 7th message, her tone had changed. "You are always busy. I get that. But I cannot keep waiting by the phone like a ghost. Maybe we need space. I do not know anymore." The 10th and final voicemail. Silence for 4 seconds. Then a whisper, "Goodbye, Cole." That one ended with a click. It was the kind of sound you do not hear, you feel. A clean break. Like a thread snapping inside your chest. I sat in the barracks listening to her voice echo in my skull. And for the first time since the call went dead, I wept. Not loud. Not messy. Just a single, burning tear that did not stop once it started. It was not just the betrayal. It was the realization that she had not only replaced me, but forgotten me. Her life had shifted into a new dimension where I did not exist. And meanwhile, I had been sending letters, praying over her name, clenching her pillow at night like a lifeline. The disparity made me sick. I deleted all 10 voicemails. Then I typed my first email to the military legal office. I was done being blindsided. The war had come home, and I would meet it like a soldier. 2 days later, an email popped up from an unexpected sender, Ramsey Lewis. Ramsey was not just a friend. He was a fellow soldier I had served with back in Germany. Retired now, but still based in Arizona. And apparently still watching everything. His message was short. Cole, I do not know if you have seen this. You need to. Attached were 7 screenshots. Taryn, at a cabin, wine in hand. Cade kissing her cheek. Taryn, at an event called Flagstaff Lovers Retreat, wearing a sash that read Future Mrs. And then the last one. A photo of Taryn's Facebook message to someone named Julie. He thinks I am divorced. Honestly, it is easier this way. Once Cole is back, I will figure something out. I deserve this happiness. I deserve this happiness. That line broke something primal in me. Because happiness built on lies is not happiness. It is theft. And she was stealing from me every day she used my last name while building a future with someone else. I called Ramsey immediately. I need more, I said. He cleared his throat. I have eyes on her. You are not going to believe half of what she is doing. I believe everything now, I replied. Every damn thing. By the end of that call, I had a Dropbox folder of photos, comments, and shared Google Calendar events between Taryn and Cade planning a trip to Austin, scouting apartments. She was not just cheating. She was building a new life on top of the ashes of ours. And she thought I would be too far, too blind, too distracted to see it. She was wrong. The next document I downloaded? A divorce packet. And this time, I would not send it from a return address. I would send it with a military seal and the full weight of karma. The barracks common room was quiet, just the hum of the vending machine and distant footsteps echoing through steel halls. I sat in the corner with my laptop open, blue light washing across my face. Around me, soldiers scrolled football scores or argued about fantasy leagues. But I was deep inside a different war. I opened Taryn's old Gmail. She had once logged in on my tablet months ago and never logged out. She never imagined I would look. She had changed the password. I did not stop. I knew how she thought. Her passwords were always tied to years or quotes. I tried our wedding date, her dog's birthday, lyrics from a song she once played on repeat, Fleetwood Mac's Silver Springs. On the 5th try, it opened. Her inbox hit me like a blast wave. Receipts from Airbnb, confirmations for couples therapy sessions she never told me about. One thread caught my eye instantly, a chain with a subject line that read, "Looking forward to Austin Blackheart." Inside were threads between Taryn and Cade. Emails, plans, apartment listings. She had scoped out 2-bedroom lofts, mentioned his studio expansion, talked about the fresh start and being free from the past. The past was me. I clicked one email and scrolled down. I told you Cole and I are over. He is just not part of the picture anymore. I wish I had done this sooner. I stared at the screen, breath held tight in my lungs. This was not just cheating. This was strategic erasure. A total override of our marriage like it never mattered. Like I never mattered. I copied everything, dragged it into a folder, then opened a blank document. The header read, Exhibit A, Intent to defraud. I was not going to confront her with words. I was going to confront her with evidence. 3 days passed, each more silent than the last. I did not reach out. I wanted to. My hands twitched toward my phone a dozen times. But I reminded myself she had already cut the cord. Then came the email from Jag. I had requested a check on my DEERS record, the official military system for tracking dependent eligibility. I needed confirmation that what I suspected was real. The reply was short, cold, factual, dependent. Taryn Mercer, one additional entry pending approval. Noted applicant, Cade Nunez, claimed spouse. I read it twice, then a third time. She had not just lied to Cade. She had lied to the government. She had filed paperwork under my benefits, military benefits, to try and make him her official dependent. The date on the form? 2 months after I deployed. I leaned back in my chair, chest tight. This was beyond betrayal. It was fraud. Federal fraud. A crime punishable by court-martial if a soldier had done it. I clicked through her submissions. She had listed him as domestic partner, citing shared living expenses and emotional dependency. She had forged the cohabitation form. The address she put on the form? Our home. My home. I laughed, not out of humor, but disbelief. Bitter, sharp, almost animal. She was not trying to escape quietly. She was trying to cash in. And the most disgusting part? She had done it with the confidence of someone who thought I would never fight back, that I would disappear quietly into foreign dust and let her rewrite the story. Wrong. I picked up the phone, called Lieutenant Colonel Whitford. He picked up after 2 rings. Mercer, what's on your mind? I swallowed hard. Sir, I need to report a dependent-level fraud involving military health care. I have proof. I also want to initiate divorce proceedings immediately. A beat of silence. Then, understood. You handle the evidence. I will handle the weight. And just like that, the gears began to turn. It was 3:14 a.m. when I opened the last message that broke the last thread holding me together. It was a text exchange between Taryn and Cade. Ramsey had sent it, forwarded from a friend who worked in cell data analytics. Private. Unfiltered. Raw. I hesitated before reading it, but I had to see who she really was. Cade, did you get the apartment application in? Taryn, yes. Told them we were married, so they'd put us on one lease. Cade, babe, we're gonna have the sickest setup. Taryn, I know. I love you, husband. Husband. She had given my title to a man who had not even known her when she wore my ring. That word was sacred to me. She said it the day we made vows under a red rock sky with her grandmother crying in the second row. Now she threw it around like a nickname. I closed the screen. My hand tightened around the edge of the desk until my knuckles went white. My jaw clenched so hard my ears rang. She called him her husband. But not legally. Not yet. I opened a new folder titled Divorce_Execution and added every file, every screenshot, document, and message. I printed out the most damning ones and laid them on my bunk like a battle plan. Then I pulled out the envelope. Thick, cream-colored, official. Inside, divorce documents, notarized statements, and the first page stamped with Whitford's seal. At the bottom of the cover letter, I signed it in black ink. One final sentence beneath my name. You may have blocked me, but now the law will answer for me. The office smelled like old leather and ink, military order etched into every corner. Lieutenant Colonel Whitford sat behind his desk, sleeves rolled, forearms marked by faded scars and tattoos that whispered stories from decades past. His eyes met mine with the kind of weight only veterans understand. Men who have buried friends and carried burdens no civilian could imagine. Mercer, he said, motioning to the chair across from him. This about the fraud request? I nodded once and placed the folder on his desk. He flipped it open, his brow furrowed. His silence said everything. Screenshots, email threads, the DERS printout with Cade's name, the signed cohabitation form. His jaw flexed. Then he looked up, voice low and deliberate. She filed this while you were in active deployment? Yes, sir. And he has no idea? No. She told him I was already gone. Said we were divorced. He leaned back in his chair, the springs creaking under the weight of what he had just read. You want to press this through the system, or? I want it all legal, clean, documented, but I want her to feel it. Whitford nodded slowly, then smirked. Cold, controlled. I respect that. He opened his drawer and pulled out the divorce packet, now military endorsed, with a signed cover letter ready to go. His name and title were printed in bold across the top. I will send it directly from command, he said. It will land like a hammer. He paused, then added, And Mercer, this may be personal, but you are not alone. We have seen men crushed by this kind of betrayal. You are choosing the high road, but with steel in your spine. That matters. I stood, took a breath, and extended my hand. He shook it firmly. Thank you, sir. He gave me a nod. Go finish this. She chose war. Now give her the battle she earned. I rewrote the letter 5 times. It had to be perfect. Not angry. Not desperate. Just final. Cold enough to freeze her breath. I wanted every line to remind her of the man she underestimated. The man she tried to erase. When I was done, it read, Taryn, you made your choice the moment you blocked my number from a continent away. While I served my country, you served yourself. You lied. You cheated. You committed fraud in my name and thought distance would protect you. So here it is. Signed, stamped, and sent with full authority. You no longer have to pretend you are someone else's wife. Now it is official. Enjoy your new life. Just know, this one comes with consequences. Cole Mercer SSG, United States Army. I printed it. Folded it once. Then I slid it inside the packet. Divorce papers, fraud documentation, proof of her manipulation. At the back, a final sheet. A breakdown of possible charges if she pursued any benefits beyond that date. The seal of my commanding officer was embossed on the envelope. Military mail. Official channel. There was no undoing this. I sealed it, and I addressed it to her yoga studio, where she was scheduled to be hosting her birthday brunch, according to Ramsey's intel. I imagined the moment, her laughing at the table, mimosa in hand, balloons tied to chairs, friends unaware of the storm about to strike. Then a courier walking in. Her name called. A thick envelope, heavy with truth. Taryn opening it, expecting roses, getting ruin. It was not revenge. It was justice. Served cold. Served right. The package left the base that night. I did not sleep. I did not need to. I had done what needed doing. Sunday arrived like any other, except I knew where she would be. 10:30 a.m. Flagstaff. A quiet rooftop cafe called Solstice. Taryn's favorite spot. Bright sunlight. Artisan toast. Background jazz. Ramsey had someone planted nearby. A quiet observer. Not there to provoke. Just to witness. The text came in at 10:42 a.m. It arrived. She has it. I stared at my phone. Then the next text. She's opening it now. I closed my eyes and pictured it. Taryn's perfectly manicured fingers sliding across the seal. Her laughter fading as her eyes scanned the first line. Her mouth forming a confused O. Then panic. There would be a moment, a flash of realization when she would understand what the letter meant. What the envelope symbolized. Who it had come from. The man she thought was too far away to matter anymore had just answered in the loudest way possible. And Cade? He was sitting right beside her. By the third text, I had confirmation. He is reading it too. Stood up. Walked off. She's chasing him now. I let the phone fall beside me. This was not the end. But it was the first real consequence. The first stone dropped into the still surface of her fake new life, and the ripples were just beginning to spread. What she did next would not matter, because everything she had built was now cracked. And every crack started with me. The photos came through like bullet wounds, frame by frame. Ramsey's contact had stayed just long enough to catch the aftermath. The first photo, Taryn standing at the center of the brunch table, envelope in hand, face pale as paper. The corner of the document poking from between her fingers like the blade it was. The second, Cade staring at the packet, arms folded, jaw locked. He was not yelling. He was done. That kind of silence always comes before walking away. The third, Taryn running after him, heels wobbling, napkin still tucked into her blouse. A mimosa glass knocked over. Someone behind her frozen in mid-bite. It was perfect. Not public humiliation. Just public truth. A quiet explosion. She had written her new life like a fantasy novel, all clean pages and fresh beginnings. But I had sent her the final chapter, wrapped in an official seal, signed in ink and consequence. My inbox pinged. She tried calling you. Burner number. I smiled. She could try all she wanted. But I would never hear her voice again, not unless it was filtered through a courtroom speaker. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my legal contact. Documents filed. Divorce proceedings underway. Want to go public? Not yet. Let her sit in silence a while. Let the world she built shake under her feet. Justice moves best when it is slow, and watched. Monday morning, her yoga studio's Google listing was flooded with one-star reviews. Some referenced stolen valor. Others accused her of faking military spouse status. A few called her a flag jacket fraud. I had not said a word publicly. But truth always leaks. Taryn had been walking a tightrope, and I had just yanked the net. Within hours, Her profile was wiped. Photos gone. Comments locked. She tried to scrub the internet clean the way she tried to scrub me out of her life. But people remember. Her studio removed her name from their site. By noon, an old friend of hers, Allie, messaged me. Cole, I had no idea. She told us you ghosted her during deployment. That you cheated. That you left. I responded with one image. The screenshot of Taryn's message to Julie about lying to Cade. Silence followed. Then, I'm sorry. You deserved better. It was not closure, but it was a crack in the wall she had built. Her lies were unraveling. Her narrative collapsing. And I was not even in the country. I did not need to yell. The truth was louder than any voice she had. And it was only beginning to echo. By Tuesday morning, she had tried 5 times. 5 different numbers. 5 blocked attempts. 1 from a private number. 1 from a friend's. Each time, my phone lit up, then silenced. And each time, I stared at the screen, heart steady, hands still. There was a time when seeing her name would have undone me. But now? Now, it was just noise. She had handed me silence. I was just returning it. My commander walked by during lunch, paused, and clapped a hand on my shoulder. You doing all right, Mercer? Yes, sir, I said, looking him in the eye. Actually, better than all right. He nodded. No words. Just a look, one soldier to another. Respect. The kind that is earned through restraint, not rage. Later that night, I wrote in my notebook. Not a letter. Just thoughts. You burned the bridge. I just let the smoke show people where you hid the truth. The next morning, I received a formal update from my attorney. All charges filed. Her notice of response deadline is 2 weeks. Her silence will count as consent. 2 weeks. That is how long she had left to fight. But she was not the fighter. I was. And she was about to learn what it felt like to be the one blocked and ignored. Not out of spite. Out of dignity. Out of power. Out of finally being done. The house had been ours. Now, it was mine. I had filed the motion for exclusive property rights 2 days after she received the envelope. Arizona laws were clear: military deployment, evidence of infidelity, and misuse of marital resources. All of it stacked in my favor. The legal team moved fast. I paid for speed. That afternoon, I received confirmation. Title amended. Property secured under your name. She no longer has access. My chest exhaled like I had been holding my breath for months. That house held our history. Painted walls, late-night fights, anniversaries, dreams in chalk on the garage floor. I thought it would feel like reclaiming a battlefield. Instead, it felt clean. Like disinfecting a wound. I arranged for movers to pack her things. Everything that was hers, her books, her yoga mats, her plants she always forgot to water, I had them carefully boxed and shipped to her sister's apartment. No confrontation. No note. Just silence, wrapped in cardboard. The movers told me she stood at the door when the boxes arrived. Eyes swollen. Said nothing. Signed the slip. She had watched our life get boxed up and carried away. But she could not stop it. Could not explain it. Could not rewrite it. Because the man she thought she left behind had just taken it all back. With law, with proof, with power. And I had not raised my voice once. The official envelope arrived at her door on a Thursday morning. A legal notice from the Department of Defense and the Office of Military Legal Affairs. Inside, a formal accusation of benefits fraud, improper dependent registration, and potential impersonation of a military spouse. 3 violations. 2 were federal. Her signature was on the document. They had scanned her form. She had forged her address and claimed shared financial responsibilities with Cade while still married to me. Now, she was facing real consequences. Her access to all military-affiliated services had been frozen. No more health benefits. No more insurance claims. Nothing with my name attached to her ever again. Later that day, my attorney forwarded me a voicemail she left on their firm line. Her voice was shaky, unrecognizable. I did not know it would go this far. I panicked. Please, I need to fix this. I never meant to hurt anyone. She said those words like they were currency. But the account was already overdrawn. This was not pain. This was accountability. You do not get to build a future off a lie and cry when the truth bills you for it. And I was done paying for her story. By Friday, the fallout reached her sanctuary, her yoga studio. That place had been her pride, her podium. She once said teaching gave her purpose, a space where she could heal others. Now, it was a place where she could not even show her face. After the reviews flooded in, clients began canceling. Long-term members asked for refunds. Some walked out mid-class once they recognized her name on the schedule. It was not rage. It was rejection. The studio's owner, Grace, released a short statement. We are aware of ongoing legal matters involving one of our instructors. She will not be returning to her role. Just like that, Taryn lost the one identity she had left. Not wife, not lover, not mentor, just a ghost in leggings. That evening, Ramsey messaged me again. She was seen sitting outside the studio. Alone. Looked like she waited for someone. Nobody showed. I read the message. Said nothing. She had wanted a new life. A clean break. A different man. A better future. But she built it on a lie. And karma? Karma had finally arrived. Slow, steady, and dressed in silence. They were silent at first. Taryn's family, especially her brother, Corbin, had always kept their distance from military talk. He never understood why someone would choose deployment over real life. We never saw eye to eye, but he respected me enough to shake my hand at our wedding. Until now. He texted me 2 days after the studio announcement. I do not want to believe it. But, is it true? I sent him one file. Just one. A screenshot of Taryn's email where she wrote, "He thinks I am divorced. It is easier this way." 5 minutes later, another message. I had no idea. She told us you cheated. That you left her broken. No, I replied. She broke herself. The next day, I heard from her mother. Voicemail. Nervous. Cold. Cole, we are shocked. We really are. I know this is a lot, but please, if there is any way, I stopped listening. Because here is the truth. They were not shocked. They were embarrassed. Embarrassed they believed her lies. Embarrassed they had comforted the villain of the story, thinking she was the victim. And now? Now they were choking on the truth. Too late to spit it out. Too bitter to swallow. I did not reply. Let her face their question. He messaged me through a burner account. You are not the first. She did the same thing to me in Oregon. New man. New name. Same lies. Same fake story. She drained my account. Then vanished. You just had the rank to fight back. I stared at the message for a long time. Then replied, you still want closure? I want truth. Then buckle up. I have receipts. That night, we talked for 2 hours. I laid out what she did. He filled in the blanks from years before. The pattern, the manipulation, the emotional whiplash. She had done this before. She just never expected someone like me to hit back. Miles laughed at the end of the call. Damn, she picked the wrong soldier. Yes, she did. It was not just a mistake, not an emotional breakdown, not a one-time betrayal. It was a system, a structure she had been building for years, a house of mirrors designed to hide the truth from every angle. With Miles's help, I traced her past. Portland, 2015. She claimed to be in medical school. She never enrolled. Santa Fe, 2017. She told a man she had lost a child. She had no medical records, no family statements, just a story crafted for sympathy. Flagstaff, 2019. That was me. And the cycle repeated. New beginning, quick attachment, emotional tragedy, hero narrative, and always a lie in the foundation. I created a timeline, visual and documented. I color-coded each phase, labeled every confirmed deception, every financial overlap, every forged statement. It was not about revenge anymore. It was about clarity. I needed to see just how far her illusion stretched, how many lives she had rewritten to make herself the main character. And as the map came together, one brutal truth stood out. She never really loved anyone. She loved being loved. She loved being worshipped. And when that faded, she moved on. Now, the mirrors were cracking. The lights were coming on. And Taryn, The woman who sculpted herself out of lies was about to be left with nothing but truth. I spent the weekend building a file the size of a textbook. Screenshots, financial records, emails, photos with timestamps, witness messages, testimony from Miles. Even bank transfers Taryn made between her accounts and Cade's, money that, in some cases, was technically mine. I labeled it Operation Backtrace. I wanted her whole narrative unpacked like a criminal investigation, because that is what it was. And not just for revenge, this was preparation. I was getting calls from the legal team daily now. Her fraud case was moving. There would be a hearing, possibly two. And the more I uncovered, the clearer it became that she was not just morally wrong, she had broken real laws. I met with the JAG officer over Zoom. I laid out the timeline. He leaned back, arms crossed, impressed and horrified all at once. "You have done half our job already," he said. "This is airtight." Then he added something I did not expect. "Do you want this private or public?" I paused, because this was the line. Private meant silence, quiet justice. Divorce, maybe restitution. Reputation mostly intact. Public? That meant exposure. Courtrooms. News. Her world pulled apart under lights. I looked at the timeline again, how many people she had lied to, manipulated, used. "I want it to be public," I said. "Understood," he replied. "Then let's make it loud." It was late Tuesday night when I opened the file that truly set me off. A refinancing application, filed 2 months ago, under my name and hers. Using our joint ownership from the early days of our mortgage, she had tried to refinance the house, my house, and access the equity. Over $70,000 in locked value. She wanted a cash-out option, and she forged my consent. The signature was not even close, but the paperwork had almost gone through. If I had not updated the ownership when I filed for exclusive property rights, she might have succeeded. She was going to gut the home I was still paying for. And for what? To move to Austin with her tattoo-sleeved future and start over while I was across the ocean writing letters to a ghost? I called the bank at midnight. My voice was ice. They froze the request, flagged it for internal fraud. The woman on the phone said gently, "You caught this just in time, Mr. Mercer." I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. No, I caught it too late. Because the woman I married was long gone. And the one left behind? She had no boundaries, no remorse, only hunger. But now, the door was closed. The locks changed. The financial ties severed. She had no keys left, only consequences. I got the message from Ramsey at noon. Cade just walked into the courthouse. Not with her. Against her. I did not smile, but I stood a little taller. Turns out, Taryn had burned one bridge too many. After the brunch fallout, she had tried to spin the narrative with Cade. Told him I was controlling. Said the military twisted me. Said the papers were a setup. But the thing about liars? They always had too much. And Cade, for all his cool image, was not stupid. He started digging. Found out about the refinancing attempt. Found out she had claimed him as a dependent for military benefits. Found out she used his name and income for leverage without his consent. And he flipped. Filed a civil case for identity misrepresentation. He gave the court a statement. One line hit hard. "I did not date a woman. I dated a con." Those words echoed through the hearing room like thunder. The court accepted his statement. Her charges stacked higher. And now? Now she stood truly alone. No lover, no family, no fallback, just silence, and a growing file with her name written in bold on the cover. It was raining hard in Flagstaff that day, the kind of storm that turns roads into rivers and storefront glass into mirrors. Taryn sat alone at a cafe on North Larue, a hood pulled over her face, tapping nervously at her phone. She looked smaller now. Not the bright, outspoken version of herself I once knew. She had faded. Ramsey sent a photo. She had been there for nearly an hour, eyes flicking to the door every time it opened. Expecting someone. Hoping. But no one came. Not her sister. Not Cade. Certainly not me. She was officially ghosted by everyone who once orbited around her. But what she did not know was that the storm was only just beginning. Because that same morning, my legal team received an anonymous email. A zipped file. No subject. No message body. Inside? Security camera footage from before the brunch. Taryn. Inside a print shop. She was standing at the counter, talking to the clerk. Printing forms. Picking up envelopes. A glance at the timestamp. 48 hours before the divorce letter landed in her hand. She had known it was coming. Not the exact contents, but enough to panic. And the most disturbing part? She had printed something too. We zoomed in on the screen the clerk had turned toward her. She was editing my signature, cutting and pasting it onto a legal-looking form. She had not just lied. She had forged my name again. And she had done it with calm, practiced hands. She thought she was in control. She had no idea she had just signed her own downfall. It was past midnight when the phone buzzed on my desk. Not a call. A message from Miles. You need to see this. Attached was a screenshot. A message thread between him and someone named Shelby. Shelby was a name I had heard only once, back when Taryn had mentioned a college friend she no longer spoke to. But here she was. And she was talking. In the messages, Shelby said she had reconnected with Taryn in early spring, right before I deployed. That they had been talking again, hanging out, that Taryn had told her something. She was not just seeing Cade, Shelby wrote. There was someone else. Another guy. Older. A client from her studio. She called him her fallback plan. My blood froze. All this time, I thought there was one betrayal. One lie. One man. But there had been another. And he was not just a secret. He was part of her backup strategy. Insurance. A safety net in case Kate cracked. I had never felt rage like I felt in that moment. Not because she had cheated again. That part was almost expected now. But because she had made plans around it. She had constructed layers of deception like escape hatches on a sinking ship. No love. No guilt. Just logistics. Like I was a temporary contract that expired the second she found a better offer. I called my attorney the next morning. I want everything. Every name, every address. I want subpoenas if I have to. He responded with only 2 words, full exposure. By the time we hit midweek, it was official. The court date was scheduled. Superior Court. Flagstaff. 1 month out. Fraud charges. Identity manipulation. Attempted financial misrepresentation. 3 charges. All backed by documentation. Testimony. Evidence. Screenshots. Affidavits from Cade, from Miles, and now Shelby. The district attorney had taken an interest. Said the case set an important precedent regarding dependent fraud during military service. For me, it was never about making an example out of her. It was about making her face what she had done. No running, no faking, no fallback. And when she was served the court summons, I heard about it within the hour. Ramsey again. Always watching. She read it. Didn't cry. Didn't yell. Just sat down on the curb. Like she could not stand anymore. It was not satisfaction I felt. It was silence. Quiet justice. Because for the first time, Taryn was standing in the wreckage she created. No one else to blame. No one left to call. And across the ocean, I sat at my desk, lacing up my boots for another mission. This one? Not in the field. This one was personal. The courtroom was silent when she walked in. No makeup. Hair tied back in a loose knot. The confidence she once wore like armor was gone. In its place, a woman trying not to shake as she stepped past the gallery. Taryn Mercer. The same woman who once told me I was her safe place. Now standing behind a defense table, palms flat against the coldwood. Across from her sat the legal team I had spent months building, attorneys, investigators, and the JAG liaison from base. And me. I was not testifying yet. Not this day. But I was present. She saw me. Her eyes met mine. And for the first time in all this chaos, she looked ashamed. The judge read through the charges. Count 1. Falsified dependent documentation. Count 2. Forgery of financial consent. Count 3. Misuse of military health benefits. The prosecutor stood. Calm. Measured. Your Honor, the state intends to prove a pattern of intentional deception. Cade testified first. Clean cut. Direct. She never told me she was married. Not once. The courtroom leaned in. She used my name on government documents. I had nothing to do with it. She risked my job, my license, my future. Then came Shelby. And then Miles. Each one another nail. Each one another crack. By the time the day ended, Taryn looked like a shell, silent, still, blinking through the fluorescent courtroom lights. The judge set a second hearing for final arguments. Taryn's lawyer asked for leniency. But the damage was done, and the silence that followed her walk out of that courtroom was louder than any verdict. It started as a local report. Flagstaff yoga instructor accused of military fraud. A small article on page 5 of the town newspaper. But by morning, it had jumped online. Screenshots spread. A reporter got hold of one of the court transcripts. Then a few public posts resurfaced old selfies, quotes from her Instagram about military sacrifice and supporting my hero. The hypocrisy lit a fire. The article trended. Blogs picked it up. A veterans' rights group posted the story with the caption, "She betrayed more than a man. She betrayed the uniform." And that was all it took. She went viral for the worst reason. Her old clients began leaving reviews. She talked about honor, about faith, all while lying to the man she married. Her accounts went dark. Comments disabled. No more curated life. But the internet does not forget. People shared her name, her photo, her court date, not out of cruelty, but because they had seen too many stories like this go ignored. Now, her face was the story. And the spotlight she once craved? It burned. The room felt colder when I took the stand. I had worn my full-service uniform, not for attention, but for clarity. I wanted the court to see the man she forgot existed, the man she betrayed while he served under foreign skies. I raised my hand, swore the oath, and then I spoke. I trusted her with everything. My life, my home, my name. The attorney nodded. "And when did you first suspect deception?" "The day my call didn't go through. The day she blocked me while I was deployed." I told them about the email threads, the falsified forms, the burner numbers, the refinancing attempt. Each word carved her further from the illusion she tried to maintain. "And why did you choose to press charges?" I looked toward the bench, then to the judge. "Because loyalty is not optional. And betrayal and silence destroys more than hearts. It breaks trust in every corner of your life. I am not seeking revenge. I am seeking accountability." Silence. Heavy. Thick. The judge nodded slowly. "Thank you, Sergeant Mercer." I stepped down. Not angry. Not broken. Just honest. Because the truth was no longer mine to carry. Now it was hers to face. The courtroom was thick with silence. Not a word. Not a whisper. Just the steady creak of chairs and the sound of rain tapping against the high windows. Taryn stood beside her lawyer, eyes vacant. Her hands trembled slightly, but she masked it by gripping her folder too tight. I was seated behind the prosecutor's desk, calm. Still. My hands locked together, my spine straight. The judge adjusted his glasses and began to speak, each word landing like a sentence on its own. In review of the evidence presented, financial documentation, verified testimonies, direct digital trails, and recorded communications, it is the court's position that the actions taken by the defendant show willful, deliberate, and calculated fraud. Taryn blinked. Once. While the court acknowledges the emotional complexities of personal relationships, what was committed here was not just personal betrayal, it was criminal deception involving federal benefits and forged legal consent. Her lawyer leaned in, whispering something. Taryn did not move. The judge continued. Therefore, the court finds the defendant guilty on all 3 counts. There it was. Final. Undeniable. The judge leaned forward, voice lower now. Sentencing will take place in 2 weeks. This court is adjourned. He banged the gavel. And just like that, her lies collapsed under the sound of carved wood hitting justice. She turned slightly, eyes locking with mine. But I did not flinch. I did not nod. I just stood and walked out. She was no longer my story. Just a cautionary chapter someone else might read one day. 3 days after the verdict, Ramsey texted me a photo. "Taryn, sitting outside a closed cafe, alone, head down, no makeup, her expression hollow, her phone in hand, but she was not scrolling, just holding it like a relic. The caption read, "She's not talking to anyone, not even her sister." I stared at that image longer than I should have. There was no triumph, no joy, just the cold realization that she had finally run out of places to hide. Her social media was gone, deleted. Even her backup account, the one she used for studio promotion, was wiped clean. No more yoga videos. No more sunset quotes about healing and light. Just emptiness. She had tried calling Kate again. He blocked her number for good. Miles. He had filed his own restraining order. A clean break. Even her landlord filed a notice of eviction. She had fallen behind on rent. Taryn Mercer, once the girl who owned every room she walked into, now sat across from a closed door with nowhere left to go. People passed her without stopping. No one asked if she was all right. No one recognized her as someone worth knowing. Because when the mask falls and the audience leaves, the performer is left with nothing but her echo. And in her silence, she finally met herself. My return stateside was quiet. No fanfare, no banners, just a silent Uber ride from the base to the house I now owned completely. The front door creaked open like it had been waiting for me. Same walls, same couch, but it felt different, lighter. I stepped into the kitchen and started a pot of coffee. My dogs padded in from the back room, tails wagging like they had been waiting months to hear my footsteps again. I sat at the counter, watching the steam rise from the mug. No noise, no tension, no weight on my chest, just peace. I checked my phone. No messages from unknown numbers. No fake apologies. No legal updates. Everything was finally still. I looked around. I had removed all her photos. The wedding frame that used to sit above the fireplace was gone. In its place, a print of Sedona's red cliffs, a reminder of where I came from, not what I survived. There were still moments that hurt. Still nights I remembered the way she smiled when she wanted something. But those memories had lost their power. I was not mourning anymore. I was breathing, and that was enough. It was around 7 a.m. when I first saw her. A woman with auburn hair, watering her small garden across the fence line. She wore a faded hoodie and jeans, sleeves rolled. No pretense, just someone real. She glanced up, caught me watching, and smiled. "Welcome home," she said. Her voice was simple, honest, like gravel and honey. "Thanks," I replied. She nodded toward my dogs. "They missed you." "Yeah," I said. "I missed them too." She hesitated, then added, "I'm Kara. I just moved in last month. If you ever need a neighbor for coffee or awkward small talk, I'm pretty decent at both." I smiled, small but real. "Cool. It's good to meet you, Kara." She waved once, then turned back to her flowers. It was nothing big. No spark. No dramatic music. Just presence. Human connection without weight. I leaned on the porch railing for a few more minutes, watching the sun creep up over the pine trees. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel like a man recovering from war or betrayal. I just felt here. And for now, that was more than enough. I opened the drawer in my home office. Inside sat the red folder I had carried through every phase of this war. Labeled Taryn_case in block letters, it had followed me through betrayal, through discovery, through court. It had become a symbol of pain, of proof, of the man I had to become to make it out clean. I pulled it out one last time, flipped through every page. The timeline, the photos, the statements, the signatures, both hers and the ones she forged. I stared at them all, not with hate, not with sadness, but with calm. This was no longer my burden. This folder no longer defined me. It had served its purpose. I took it to the fireplace, opened the screen, and one by one, fed the pages into the flame. The paper curled and blackened, her lies dissolving into smoke. When the last page vanished, I sat back in my chair, hands folded. That file had once been my armor. Now it was ash, and I did not need armor anymore. It arrived in the mail one morning, simple white envelope, no return address, just my name written in sharp blue ink. Inside was a postcard, Front, a photograph of an empty Oregon coastline. Back, just a few words. Started over. About a dog. Feels right this time. Miles, I smiled without thinking. Not because of the message, but because someone else had survived her too. Someone else had been dragged through her storm and made it out on the other side. Scarred, maybe, but alive. Clear-eyed. There was something unspoken in his note. That we had joined a quiet brotherhood, men who had loved a ghost, and came back stronger because of it. I kept the postcard on my fridge, pinned beside a calendar and an old photo of me with my unit. A reminder, not of her, but of recovery, of connection, of the fact that broken does not mean ended. It just means rebuilt. The town forgot her. The same streets where she used to wave to neighbors and host studio pop-ups now held no memory of her name. The yoga studio rebranded. New management. New colors. Taryn's face erased from every wall. At the grocery store, no one whispered about her anymore. People had moved on. Time has a way of burying noise. Even loud scandals fade beneath the rhythm of normal life. And that is exactly what I wanted, normal. I started volunteering at the VA clinic on weekends. Taught a few self-defense classes at the community center. Signed up for a trail cleanup crew. My name was showing up again, but this time for the right reasons. Not for being betrayed, but for rebuilding. And the best part? No one asked about her anymore. Because I was no longer someone's husband. I was just me. And that was enough. Taryn sat in a tiny studio apartment on the outskirts of Phoenix. A one-room space above a diner, with peeling paint on the ceiling and a leaky faucet she could not afford to fix. Her phone was silent now. Not a single call since the sentencing hearing. She had been placed on 6 months probation, ordered to repay restitution, and barred from operating under any business license for at least 2 years. She applied for work. Studios refused to hire her. She tried going online, but her name always brought up the story. Her hands, once used to guide poses and adjust shoulders during classes, now trembled when she tried to record herself. She had tried reaching out to her sister again. No reply. She had kept a few things. A box of old photos. The compass necklace I once gave her, still tucked in the bottom corner of a drawer. She had not thrown it out, because deep down, she knew what it meant. Direction. Something she no longer had. And in that silence, in that forgotten corner of the city, she lived with the one thing she could not outrun, herself. It was not a dramatic moment. No fireworks. No sudden tearful epiphany. Just me, standing in front of a mirror, tying my boots, and realizing something felt different. Lighter. I was no longer checking the news for updates on her. I was no longer waiting for my phone to buzz with another reminder of what she had done. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt earned. I had healed. Not forgotten. Not erased. Just healed. There were still scars, mental ones mostly. But they no longer stung. They told a story now, and I was no longer afraid to look at them. That night, I went for a drive. Windows down. Arizona wind sliding across my skin. I passed the places we once loved, the lake, the corner diner, the pull-off we used to sit at just to watch the stars. And I did not flinch. Because the memories were just that now, memories. They had no power. I stopped at a hill just outside town, parked the truck, and climbed up to watch the sky. For the first time in years, I felt like the future belonged to me again. Not her. Not the past. Just me. And that was more than survival. That was victory. Kara knocked just before sunset, holding a plate of brownies. Peace offering, she said. I figured you might be the kind of guy who still eats sugar after 6 p.m. I laughed. I eat whatever keeps me alive at this point. She smiled, tilting her head. Want to eat something other than brownies? That night, we sat on my porch, eating takeout under the stars. We did not talk about anything heavy. She told me about her old job in Seattle, her dog that passed, her hatred for mornings. I told her about my unit, my time overseas, and my terrible taste in movies. We laughed. A lot more than I expected. At one point, she paused and said, "You have this calm about you." Like someone who walked through a fire and just kept going. I looked at her for a long second. I did, I said. But I am done burning now. She nodded. No questions. No pressure. Just a shared moment between two people who knew what it meant to rebuild. And that dinner? It was not a love story. It was a peace treaty. With myself. I found it in the back of my closet, tucked behind a duffel bag and a rolled-up camping mat. A cardboard box labeled in her handwriting. Us. I stared at it for a while, debating. Then I sat down and opened it. Inside were snapshots of the early years, our wedding, the camping trip in Zion, her standing on our porch in that yellow sundress I used to love. And then I found the letters, ones I wrote during my first tour, pages and pages of things I thought she cherished. She had kept them all, and maybe that was the hardest part, that somewhere, at some point, it had been real. But love is not just about beginnings. It is about choices, and hers had been clear. I packed the box carefully. No tears, no anger, just the quiet into a chapter one was no longer reading. I taped it shut and wrote one word across the top. Return. No note inside. No message. Just the past, boxed and sealed. It was not revenge. It was closure. 3 weeks later, I walked into Red Needle Ink. It was quiet. Clean. Cade stood behind the counter, setting up fresh cartridges. He looked up, surprised, but not hostile. I nodded once. Do you have a slot open? He blinked. Yeah. What are you thinking? I pulled out a folded piece of paper. A compass. The same one I had once given her on a necklace. The same one she had tattooed on herself with him. He studied the design. You sure? I nodded. I am reclaiming it. He did not ask more. He led me to the chair. Gloved up. No music played. Just the sound of the machine starting up. As he worked, we did not speak much. But before he finished, he said, she fooled both of us, man. I just did not want to admit it. I exhaled through my nose. She needed to fool people to survive. We just happened to believe her. When it was done, I looked at the mirror. The compass was etched into my skin now, not as a memory of her, but as a reminder of direction, of where I had been, and where I was going. The courtroom was colder this time. No crowd. No press. Just the key players. Quiet. Heavy with expectation. Taryn sat beside her lawyer, hands clasped so tight her knuckles looked bloodless. She wore black. No jewelry. No makeup. Just shadows beneath her eyes and the same blank stare I had seen the day she was served. The judge entered. Everyone rose. He wasted no time. Ms. Mercer, he began, this court acknowledges your guilty verdict on all 3 counts. Fraud. Forgery. Financial misrepresentation. Today, we issue final sentencing. Taryn did not speak. She had already tried. Pleaded during the pre-sentencing interview. Claimed regret. Claimed confusion. Blamed pressure, trauma, and even isolation. But the judge saw through it. He laid out the terms with surgical precision: 6 months probation, mandatory repayment of misused benefits and fines, loss of business licensing for 2 years, public record of conviction. She did not cry. She just nodded, numb. And when the gavel came down, it was not loud, but it echoed. Not just in the room, in her life. Because this was not just punishment. It was confirmation. Her fall was complete. And now, she had to live in it. It came a week after sentencing. A voicemail. From a new number. Her voice barely above a whisper. Cole. I know I do not deserve anything from you. I know that. But I wanted to say I am sorry. For real. I ruined everything. And you were the only thing that ever felt solid in my life. Pause. Then she added, I see your face sometimes. In dreams. And in mirrors. I hope you're okay. I hope you're happy. That's all. Click. I listened to it once. Then deleted it. No hate. No rage. Just a decision. Because I had nothing left to say. And sometimes, the most powerful answer you can give is silence. I stood at the gate, fresh orders in hand. Not overseas. Not combat. An instructor post stateside. Training the next wave. Sharing what I knew without carrying the weight of it. It was the kind of role I never saw myself in before. But now, it felt right. My CO gave me a firm handshake. You earned this. On my way out, I passed a mirror in the hallway. The compass tattoo peeked from under my sleeve. I stopped, looked at my reflection. I saw a soldier, yes. But more than that, I saw a man who had survived not just war zones, but something quieter, darker. A man who had faced betrayal and built something better from the ruins. I stepped outside. Sun on my face. Wind clean and sharp. I had orders. But for the first time in a long time, they were my own. Back in town for one night before the move, I stopped by Karis. She opened the door with that same crooked smile. "You hungry?" she asked. I nodded. Always. We ate quietly. No questions about the past. No heavy talks. Just food, conversation, and something better than sparks, ease. Later, as we sat outside watching the stars come out, she leaned her head on my shoulder. "You look like you finally let something go," she said softly. I exhaled. "I did." She smiled. "You know what's wild," she said. "You never told me her name." "Not once." I smiled too. "That's because she's no longer part of the story." Kara squeezed my hand, then looked up at the sky. And in that silence, in that moment, I felt it fully for the first time. Not survival. Not revenge. Just freedom. Months passed. The sky changed. The seasons shifted. But the peace I carried never left. My mornings were simple. Coffee. Sunlight. Running trails with the dogs. Teaching soldiers during the day. Sleeping deeply at night. No anxiety. No second phone. No checking messages in secret. That part of my life was over. But healing is strange. You never go back to being the person you were before. You evolve into someone new. Someone who remembers. I still saw flashes sometimes. Her face in a crowd. Her voice in the back of my mind when I smelled cedarwood or lavender. But the difference was this: I did not flinch anymore. I let the thought pass. Because peace is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of strength. And I had more than enough now. Not everything was burned. Some things remained. The friendships I forged in silence. The strength I built while the world fell around me. The quiet respect from those who knew the full story. And one other thing. A letter I never sent. Written to the man I used to be. It sat in the back of my nightstand drawer, folded tight. Inside it said, "You will survive this. Not just because you are strong, but because you refused to let this destroy your kindness. You did not lose your heart. You protected it." I never sent it. Because I did not need to anymore. I had lived it. And the man I became? He knew exactly who he was. I saw her one final time. Not in person. On a screen. Someone forwarded me a photo. Taryn walking alone downtown. Hoodie pulled tight. Holding a cheap coffee in both hands. No one around her. No spark in her eyes. Just stillness. No studio. No followers. No spotlight. She had become what she feared most, unseen. And in that moment, I felt no pity. No anger. Only release. She was not my villain anymore. She was just a woman who had made her choices and now lived inside the world those choices created. And I had stepped out of it. Sunrise. A quiet road. Me walking my dogs under an amber sky. No noise. Just the crunch of gravel, the soft wind, and the rhythm of a man who finally made it home to himself. I looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and smiled. She blocked me, but it was the greatest gift she ever gave me. Because through that silence, I found peace. I found strength. I found myself. And in the end, she did not break me. She set me free. Tell me this, have you ever trusted someone so much, you ignored your own gut? What did it cost you? Tell me in the comments. I am listening. And hey, if this story hit you hard, do one thing for me. Tap that like. Hit subscribe. Not just because of the content, but because you deserve more stories that do not lie to you. We will meet again next time in another thrilling, emotional, and unforgettable revenge story. Until then, take care of your peace. And never forget who you are. See you soon.